Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. You are listening to the What You Sippin' On podcast, brought to you by B3 Business, Bonding, and Beer. I'm Eric Thornton. I'm a realtor here in town with eXp Realty. I'm joined by my friend Dennis Tolpa, who's a residential home mortgage lender with Studio Bank in Nashville, and my good friend William Stiles, insurance agent with Country Financial. We are out to connect local business owners here in the community in the Nashville area. We do that through our B3 networking events, where we give you the opportunity to come out and connect with other business-minded people in the area. And obviously, we also host this podcast, What You Sippin' On, where we bring local business leaders to you wherever you're tuning in. So we hope that you'll like, subscribe, and share this podcast with anyone who you think might get some value out of it. And we hope you'll watch our social media pages for details on upcoming events. We'd love to see you out there. So as local business pros, we'd love to help you out, or at least the opportunity to do so. As I mentioned, I'm a realtor. We've got a lender and an insurance agent. That's not just the start of a corny joke. So if you have the opportunity to buy a new house, you're looking for a mortgage or a refi, or you're looking for auto or life insurance, hit us up. Again, we'd just love the opportunity to take care of you. We do our best. So also, we got to give a big thanks and a shout out to Brian Holloway, the man behind the camera with Black Fox Media. This absolutely would not be possible without Brian and his time. He does a fantastic job. So that being said, we're going to get on with the show, and we are excited to be joined today by the Dr. Justin Moseley. He goes by another name, but we might let him touch on that here in a second. But let me tell you just a little bit about what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how Dr. Moseley turned a near-death experience into a career path where he's now helping leaders across the world reprogram their subconscious mind for success. But before we go too far down that road, we got the most important question of the day. We got to know what you're sipping on today.
Sipping on today, old-fashioned. So appreciate this. Appreciate you guys having me on here.
Cheers. Cheers to having you on, man. We appreciate your time. But we also got to hear the story behind why'd you choose an old-fashioned for us all to enjoy today.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't remember when I started drinking them, but this is definitely my drink of choice. I think it was just that old-school, manly drink. Just go chill with your friends, have a cigar.
Is there a particular way you do it, or you make it?
No, usually, Woodford or a good, nice bourbon is good for me, and just nice, easy to sip. Like to have a cigar with it too now and again, and just have a good time.
And it makes you more manly, so take notes if you're interested in that.
Yeah, manly drink.
So yeah, Justin, I'm sure. We're honored to have you on. I know a lot of people know you've been making the rounds lately, and we'll hear a little bit more about that. So. But you're a local guy. I mean, I know you've been out there doing TEDx and everything else. We're going to dive into that, but kind of take us through, like, where are your roots at?
Yeah, born and raised here in the area. Grew up Goodlettsville, Hendersonville area, which I know is uncommon these days. Most people are moving in.
Very uncommon.
I think they call you a unicorn.
Yeah. Yes, unicorn for sure. Yeah, but born and raised here. Went to high school, grew up, went all the way through kindergarten through high school at Good Pasture, and then went to MTSU for college. And moved back in 2012. Went down to chiropractic school in Atlanta. Moved back and started a practice with my wife, Music City Health Center. We started that in 2012. So glad to be back and just serve this community for sure.
Yeah, shout out to Dr. Courtney and the crew over at your clinic.
Yes, she's amazing.
Yeah, she does a nice job. And actually, we owe her a little bit of gratitude for making the connection here. She was kind enough to tell us all we should meet up sometime.
Yeah, so absolutely.
One thing leads to another. Here we are.
Yeah.
So chiropractic school, right? Yeah. So it's a little bit different than what you're doing now. But take us through the start of that journey.
So we started our practice. She's a chiropractor as well. We started in 2012 and quickly grew amazing practice. Saw lots of families. Life was good. Business was good. Marriage was good until 2018 when I went on a whitewater rafting trip. And that changed everything for me. So I actually had a near-death accident. The raft, we were on the Ocoee where the Olympic run is there. And as soon as we dropped into the Class 5 rapids, the raft tipped over. And I was sitting in the back of the raft. I actually got trapped underneath the rapid itself. Started pushing me down underwater. And the last thing I remember thinking was, I'm not coming back up. And everything went black, and then everything went bright white. And it was the most peaceful, serene feeling I'd ever felt. And then thankfully in that moment, I heard a voice that said, wake up. And thankfully I did. I came back to consciousness, and I was trapped underwater, wedged between two rocks. And I tried to push, and I didn't budge. And I kept pushing, and nothing happened. And then thankfully my adrenaline kicked in. And I was able to push hard enough that I broke the buckle on my life jacket that was stuck underneath one of the rocks, floated to the top just in time to gasp for breath, and then I got swept down the river. So that was definitely a wake-up call for me, because we all question our purpose in life. Like, why are we here? Well, what is this all about? But then when you survive something like that, I asked a different question. I was like, why am I still here? Because things could have been different. What if I didn't hear wake up? Or what if I would have been strong enough to push through that? So I was like, I know God's got me here for a reason. So why am I still here? So I started contemplating that and really just stepped back. And I was like, man, if I could do something that brings me joy but helps lots of people, what would I do? I was like, I really just want to put out content on mindset and personal growth and development. It changed my life. It led to the success that we had. So I just want to give that back to others. But even at the time, I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to listen. I'm just going to start putting, you guys probably know the feeling. You start a podcast. I don't know who's going to listen or not. But I started my Facebook group, I think the first of 2020, and just started putting out content, showing up, interviewing people, and the group grew quickly. It grew to 1,000 members in the first month. And I was like, all right, people are listening and wanting more. And it just led to more. I started doing mastermind retreats and group coaching and one-on-one coaching. And now it's open doors. I speak all over the country, and I do speaking and coaching full time now. My wife runs the practice full time and allows me to do stuff like this full time.
Man, that's an amazing story of survival, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So what made you decide to go on that trip in the first place? Because I'm kind of from that area. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
That's a rough rapid. That's like Olympic lifters or Olympic rafters go to. What made you want to do that?
And I had never been whitewater rafting, never really cared to, but I was on a men's retreat, and they're like, yeah, we're going whitewater rafting. I was like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And it was funny because it was like a scene out of NASCAR, because there was people lined on both sides of the shore just cheering for people to flip over. It's like in NASCAR where they want people to wreck and they can go crazy.
That's all fun and games until
until
somebody gets strapped under the rapid.
Until it's you that's trapped under
it is a normal thing. Like even the guide was like, yeah, the rafts flip over all the time. You just lay there, your life jacket, you'll float to the top and you'll get floated down the river. But until what happened to me, which was just a fluke accident, I actually got under the rapid itself. And that's where I was like, yeah, I'm laying here. They said I'm going to float back up, but nope, I went the opposite direction.
So you're trapped under the water when you hear wake up. So obviously that's not a humanly voice.
Nope, no. Yeah, and for me as a believer, there was God speaking, saying, wake up.
Man. Wow. And then like the battle began to like break yourself free of that.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Yeah. So you said it was a men's trip, right? So Dr. Courtney wasn't there to witness this.
She was not there, and I didn't even tell her about it afterwards, because I was kind of still shook. Like, I don't even know what happened. Like, it's kind of like if somebody's been in a bad car wreck. Like, it's like, what just happened? I don't even know. So it took me a while even processing that, and I didn't want her to freak out anyway. So yeah, I just kind of kept that in for a while. And really, I didn't even start sharing the story until about a year ago. I started talking about it in more podcasts, and I had people reaching out to me saying they had similar experiences, and then my experience really spoke to them. So I just started sharing it more.
Yeah, you got to keep those near-death experiences close to the vest, man. You start telling your wife about it, you might not get to go.
So you're not going anywhere anymore.
You're grounded. You're staying at home.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what happened afterwards. So you got out of the water and you're thinking, wow, God really has a purpose for me in my life. Why was it the motivational speaking? Why was it that specific thing that really brought you to this point where you are now?
Yeah, really, it was, again, I stepped back and I was like, I want to do something that can help people. So I read my first Tony Robbins book when I was 16, and that really motivated me. Like, man, if you change your mind, you can change your life. And that got me fired up just to personal growth. Like, I've been passionate about it since I was 16. For 10 years, I read over 100 books a year. I love just consuming knowledge and learning. So I knew at that point, it's like, man, now it's time for me to start giving this back to others. So that's when I just started putting it out there. And it's funny, I never started out to make it a business. I was just doing it to serve. And it's funny how God works, because between our practice and other businesses I've started were based on serving. It was that Jesus didn't come to be served, but he came to serve. And then also the Zig Ziglar quote, you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. So I was just out there serving and just helping people, and people wanted more. In the online world, you're supposed to have like this 3-day launch formula, and you're supposed to build your list and you sell to your list. I had none of that. I had no list. I had nothing. I was just showing up, doing my thing. I was on a live, and I was like, hey, I'm starting a mastermind group. If you want to know more about it, let's jump on a call. And within a week, I had it sold out. And that was just a testament of just serving and giving people what they want, and they leaned into it, and the rest is history.
So you said sold out. So, I mean, there's a point where you're like, okay, this is resonating with people. I feel like I could,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of value to give. People are willing to pay money for it. Like, what was that in your mindset, mindset doctor? Like,
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you make that leap to like, hey, this is great. I'm putting this out there, but now I'm going to charge people for it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And part of it was too, I was like, man, other people are getting paid for this. Like, I need to figure out there's other coaches that are doing this. And I do believe that there is value. Where people pay, they pay attention. So that's one thing too.
Yep.
If you're just doing everything for free, there's no value on their end. I could have given the same. So one of the first things I did was a retreat. In the middle of the pandemic, I had a retreat out in Denver and had 12 people flew out there. But if I would have done it for free, they don't have the value for it. They're like, oh, it's good information, and it was great. But because they invested in themselves and they came out, man, it was an incredible experience. Like even one of the guys, the first day, he said he had issues because he couldn't show emotion. Like he couldn't really connect with people because he was just a non-emotional guy. And by day 2, he was crying in front of the group. And it was just a cool thing just to see him be able to get in touch with his emotions and be able to just open up.
Phenomenal. So I feel like at some point in here, we alluded to the fact, like, yes, you are Dr. Justin Moseley, but there's another title that you've kind of adopted now, which is?
Yeah, so then now it's the mindset doctor. So I started speaking at different mastermind retreats and in different places. And one of the retreats I was speaking at, some guy was like, man, you're the mindset doctor. And I was like, hey, I like that.
Yeah,
I'm going to go
good.
with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I just kind of leaned into that from there, just because I'm very passionate about mindset. Because like I said, if you change your mind, you can change your life. And I truly believe that things don't have to stay the way they are. You can make a change. And the quickest way to do that is by investing in yourself and your own personal growth. Because everybody wants results. Hey, my business, I want better results. And they ask that question, how can I get better results? The question they need to be asking is, well, how can I get better? Because the better you get, the better results you're going to get. I think the fastest way to get the best results is by getting yourself to a better place.
So is any part of that making yourself better or creating a better you have anything to do with your wife's practice, your practice at Music City? Because I know you guys transitioned from the chiropractic service to more of the holistic health. Does that have anything to do with it?
No, it's completely separate. So my wife runs the practice now, and yeah, it was just chiropractic for a long time. Chiropractic and nutrition, because my wife's very passionate about nutrition. She actually studied nutrition in undergrad and was in the diabetes wing doing a round. And she looked at the menu, and there was like white bread and all these things that they were giving to the diabetic patients. And she was like, that's terrible for them. Like, why would you do that? So she's very passionate about nutrition. But then as we started our practice and got things going, like she lost her own health. She started having a bunch of symptoms and things that were popping up. And it was through functional medicine testing and getting her hormones checked and her food allergies checked where she was actually able to restore her own health. So she was like, man, how many people need this? The actual testing to know what they should eat or what they shouldn't eat. Because she was eating the right stuff. She was eating healthy, making the best decisions. But even some of the healthy foods she reacted to, so it was causing issues for her. So now she's on a mission, especially with women's health, because women, their hormones, they're crazy. And the options they're giving is, here, take a pill for this or take a pill for that. When a lot of times, doing the proper testing, there's things you can do naturally to restore your health. And she's definitely passionate about that.
Mm. Yeah.
That's awesome. So going through, obviously a lifelong goal of yours going through school is to be a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And now, how difficult was that to leave that, right? Because through your whole life, that was your life.
Yep.
And then because of an experience, I mean, I'm sure that was not an easy decision even after that.
Yeah, and it was tough. And I think that's a great conversation to have too, because it has to do with identity. Because my identity was a chiropractor. I was a great chiropractor. And I loved the testimonials. I loved hearing people that their migraines, they no longer suffered from migraines, and all the testimonials I would hear. And then right before the accident, I actually had blown my shoulder out. And I physically couldn't even lift my arms. I couldn't even lay my hands on people anymore. So I went through a dark period. I was like, man, I can't even physically be a chiropractor right now. But then one of the things that helped me, and hopefully to help somebody listening too, is your identity is not what you do. So I'd put my identity in being a chiropractor, but that's what I did. That's not who I am. Who I am is somebody who wants to change lives and make a difference. And chiropractic was what I was doing. That was a vehicle to do that. But I don't have to be a chiropractor to do that. I can speak and help people all over the world versus just locally here in town.
Wow.
So do you miss it at all? Now looking back, like, is there any part of you that's like, oh, I do miss those days of helping those clients in that way? Or are you kind of beyond that at this point?
Yeah, I do miss it. It's funny. I still go in the clinic now and again, and I still love on people that have been with us even since we opened the practice. And we're about to celebrate 10 years of being open here locally, and we still have patients that have been with us since the first week we opened. And it's cool just to walk in, just to love on them. But it's so fulfilling now, the work that I get to do. And honestly, I coach a lot of chiropractors as well. So then just knowing that if I help them get better, then that's even more people they're helping. So it's more of a fulfillment piece for me, knowing the impact that I get to make now.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. So talk to us about what that transition looked like. So you got out of the water, you're out of the rapids. You say, okay, I'm going to help entrepreneurs and I'm going to fix their mindset, right? I'm going to get in their subconscious, their mindset. By the way, I love that because Carol Dweck's book, Mindset,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've read that.
Yep.
It's amazing how many people don't think about learning more, right? So
Right.
you had to learn more to make this transition. So talk to us what that looked like.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, especially with what we went through and we're still going through in the world, people start to question their own jobs, like my career. I'm working for home. Do I even want to go back to work? Can I do something different? One of the best things you can do is, look at your own talents and abilities and look at the things that you're passionate about. And because I had been reading books since that first Tony Robbins book, since I was 16, that's really where my passions were. And I used that in my own personal growth, helped with our practice growth and in our business growth. But really, I stepped back and I was like, well, how can I use that knowledge and give that to others? Because like you said, most people were stuck in their own, as Carol Dweck in her book Mindset, talked about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And a lot of people have just a fixed mindset. Just this is the way things are. They're not going to change. I'm stuck at this level. It really doesn't have to be that way. You can shift it into a growth mindset. And that's where my work is a lot in the subconscious mind. And I get to work with lots of chiropractors just because I've been in the industry for so long. But I also I've got celebrity clients, professional athletes, to small business owners, online entrepreneurs. The one thing that they all have in common is their level of success is directly related to their level of subconscious programming. So it's kind of like the programs on your phone. Well, a lot of people are walking around like they have an iPhone 4 still because of their programming they have. And if you guys have an iPhone, you know there's always updates. There's always software updates. Well, that's what we have to do with our own mind. We have to upgrade our level of thinking. And I help people at different levels, but a lot of them want to break through like the 7-figure mark. Well, you can't make 7 figures on a $500,000 mindset. Or you can't make $100,000 on a $50,000 mindset. It's all about upgrading, and it starts at a subconscious level. It's not just about changing your thoughts, because changing your thoughts are great, but really it's the beliefs that are underlying those thoughts that are really affecting the change in the things that we do in life.
I think that's cool because I'm a big fan of, there's a bunch of things floating around in your head, right? Like you consume enough stuff and you forget who said what.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You're going one level deeper than something that resonates with me a lot. It's like what you consume, what you listen to, what you read really kind of drives your thought process, drives your actions, drives your habits, drives your results, right? Like It's sequential. It's a domino effect, so to speak. But you're even going one level deeper, like in your, what do I believe about myself? Can I accomplish this? What is my purpose? Like, those sorts of things. So, I mean, I think that's you're getting much more to the root of it, of what we really believe about ourselves before we even allow the things that we consume to have that impact on us.
Right, yeah. And just to simplify that, just for people listening, your thoughts create feelings, which determine what actions you take, which determine the results that you get. So if you think better thoughts, you take better actions, you get better results. The problem is we think better, and a lot of the positive thinking, I'm going to think a better thought. The problem is if I really don't believe that thought, that's where that belief comes in. If you don't change the beliefs, you think it, but really you don't believe it. So you don't really feel that you can accomplish that, so you don't take the action needed and you don't get the result. So when you can actually change it at a belief level, then you have better thoughts, better feelings, better actions, and you get better results.
I love it. So is that the key to get somebody? Because you could consume a bunch of content, right? But then eventually you have to take action on it. So are you kind of speaking to the root of what it takes to get somebody to take that actions required after, they've done the rest of the legwork?
Yeah, and as you know, we've talked even a little bit. I can go deep in all of this stuff, and really, it's taking aligned action, because there's also the other side of things too. If I'm just going to take a bunch of action, I'm just going to do more, I'm going to get better results. The problem is people can do that and not get any better results. They can get burned out. They can get overwhelmed. They get frustrated. Hey, I'm doing all the right things, but it started in the mind. If you're not thinking right, you're not taking the aligned action you need to take that are going to give you the results that you need.
It's interesting because I don't want to speak for you guys, but in essence, we're all trying to help people better themselves, whether it's financially, I guess all of us kind of financially, and you're securing people and, financially, health-wise. But anyways, at the end of the day, you're kind of in sales roles, and your beliefs go up and down in a sales role, right? Because you can go through a couple good months where it's like, hey, things are going good. You could also go through a couple months when it's just nothing's working for you. And that's when your belief, you start doubting yourself.
Absolutely.
And you're in the moment of like, man, like I did really good. Like what's going on now? What's different? And you sometimes lose some belief in yourself. And I'm sure you see that with a lot of folks.
Right.
But I can definitely see that cycle going through. I don't know if you guys can speak on that as well.
Oh,
but
it's a roller coaster ride, man. You can start going down and just doubt yourself, right? And then that doubt can just, if you don't somehow change your belief, right? How you believe in yourself, your processing, your company, or what you're selling, it'll just keep going down.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, we tie our belief and our self-worth into the numbers. If they're really good, then, I must be really good. I'm doing great. If they're down, man, I suck. What's wrong with me? Nobody wants my service.
Right.
And I just helped a guy 2 weeks ago through this, and he had his best months ever, December, January, and then from there it started going down. So, and he had those thoughts, man, do I suck? Like, what's going on? Nobody wants my service. What's happening? And so we went and we separated the facts versus the feelings. So he was feeling those things, and I feel like I'm not good anymore. People don't want what I want. But when we really backed it up and we looked at, well, what were the actions you took to give you those results in December and January? And he did the certain things that gave him his best months ever, and then he tried to coast off of those numbers. And what really happened is he wasn't doing the things necessary to keep that level of success up. So instead of actually looking at the fact of, no, if you would have just kept doing that, your numbers would have stayed up, he got in the mental game of, man, I suck. The numbers aren't there. What did I do wrong? Versus looking at the fact. It wasn't anything to do with you. You just weren't taking the correct action to give you the results that you're looking at.
So his action was lower, therefore his attitude started to drop.
Yeah,
right?
And that's normal in any business too. You can have some big months and you try to coast off of that, but you forget what brought you, that work that you put in when you weren't seeing the results yet. And then all of a sudden the results hit and you try to coast off of that. And it's like, no, it's the work you did before leading up to that gave you the results. You need to go back to doing that if you want to continue to get that level of success.
Based on what you're saying here, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on, if you listen to any of the same gurus, for lack of a better word, there's some huge names out there, I won't name them, but they're like, take massive action. Massive action. Like you want results, just take massive action. Yeah. I'm here. There's quite a contrast between massive action and aligned action.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the difference between the two.
Yeah, and there's good and bad. So there's a good part in the massive action because sometimes that's what people need to get motivated to actually do any kind of action. So any action's better than no action. Yeah. So if you go read a book or go to a seminar and they get you pumped up to take action, hey, at least you're moving forward. But when it comes down to aligned action, that's when you can sustain it for a long period. Because a lot of times that massive action, I'm just going to do everything. Well, one, you don't really know which piece of the action actually gave you the success. You're like, I just did a bunch of stuff and I ended up here. Well, there's probably only 20% of what you actually did gave you 80% of the results. Well, what if you just continue to repeat just that 20% over and over? You get to save a lot of your own energy, mentally, physically, emotionally, and you get to sustain that on a long period of time versus go through these burnout cycles a lot of people go through because they're constantly trying to take massive action. So yeah, if you can scale it back and look at what are that 20% that's aligned, if I can do that consistently and get 80% of the results, you get better results and better energy.
So does that speak to some of the value that you bring as a coach, because I know you've got the motivational, the speaker side of your business, but then you've also got the more one-on-one or the group coaching kind of stuff do you do. So are you speaking now to things that you will help do like at the one-on-one coaching level to help people identify what those actions were?
Absolutely, yeah, because clarity is the missing piece for most people. Because when you ask people what do they want, they start telling you all the things they don't want. Well, I don't want to work this hard. I don't want to do all this. I don't want to be overwhelmed. Like they say all the things they don't want, but they're really not clear on what they want. So that's even step one, is helping people get clear on what they want and then get a clear plan of how to achieve that. And I like doing less and getting better results, doing less, making more, doing less, having more, because if you simplify things, that's where the sweet spot is. Because anybody can just be like, I'm going to go 100 miles an hour and try to do that for 6 months to create success, but then they just burn out and like, man, I need to take 3 months off just to recover. And I think the power lies in that sustained ability just to continue to do the proper action that's aligned, that one, it's aligned too with who you are and what you want to create. Because there's a lot of things you can do to make money, but if it's not aligned with who you are and what you're trying to accomplish and the legacy you want to leave in this world, it's not even worth it.
And I love that, what you said about sustained growth, because as athletes or in sports or in CrossFit, the saying is slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yep. Yeah.
So if you're slow and you're smooth, you're going to end up being a lot faster.
Right. Yeah.
And that's exactly what you just said, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you make less mistakes too. So you get to get there faster. And so a good example, I've got a client, he's a professional golfer. And you guys play golf?
Yeah.
There's so many little tweaks that you can make and you can get in your own head. Well, I remember the last time I had this issue, so I need to overcorrect and do this. And it's like, I started working with him because there's so many things, from the way his hips needed to be, the way he needed to tuck his shoulder. So I said, forget all of that. Let's go back and let's visualize the perfect swing. We retrained how that felt for him to make the perfect swing. Then he no longer had to think about making the perfect swing. He started visualizing over and over how it felt, the contact. He saw the ball actually landing exactly where he wanted it to go. And there's power. Visualization is one of the things that I teach. And famous golfer Jack Nicklaus said, I never hit a shot, not even in practice, without a clear vision of where I wanted that ball to land. He'd already visualized that. So we took with this golfer, we had him visualize over and over the perfect swing, never had to think about the swing again. He got out of his head of, I need to do this, tweak this, turn my wrist, do that. Nope. Just what does that feel like? And then he started swinging perfectly. So the same thing can be done in business. You can find that sweet spot. You can train your body. So we can talk about this stuff for hours, but we get trained a certain way. When things come up, we have a certain anxiety. When we look at our bank account and it hits a certain number, oh, I need to get to work. I need to go make these sales calls. Well, we can train our nervous system and train our body for success. And that's what I like to help people do, so then they can make decisions out of that.
A subconscious mindset.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
So in all the clients that you coach, whether they're professional athletes or business folks, what are some of it's probably a pretty broad question, admittedly, but what are some of the more common barriers you see as far as like a theme is concerned between somebody identifying like, oh, okay, yes, this is where I am. You quite simply laid out like, these are the things that I need to do to, the kind of the 20% for the 80%, results. Yeah. What are the common barriers that you see between people where they are now and where they know that they could be?
The biggest thing at any level is belief. They suffer from self-doubt. I have a client that's worth over $10 million and still has doubt about the level that he can get to. So everybody, and the biggest problem is everybody thinks I'm the only one that thinks this way. I'm the only one that doubts myself or has these limiting beliefs. When no, every single person I've worked with at any level has a level of self-doubt. Now, some of them had more success, so obviously they were able to overcome some level of self-doubt, but then they still hit a wall that was keeping them from getting to that next level. So when you can help them shift and create a higher ceiling towards their self-doubt, then they can go to another level.
Man.
That's fascinating, because bringing it back to golf, I'm a golfer, and you have the number ones in the world, right? They're number one in their profession, and they get that self-doubt at the highest level, and they got to bring themselves back to that point. So for us, I say us is just not the number one mortgage guy or whatever. Like, we're not the best out there. But you're always going to have that. And it's always, I feel like you're telling us you're always fine tuning your skill, fine tuning your mental state to get to where you want to be. Like it's a never ending process, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so think about that as professional athletes, they are on top of their game mentally to go out and hit a ball around. And yes, there's millions of dollars at stake, but they're still going out to play a sport. How much important is our day-to-day lives and what we're called to do? Shouldn't we put in that same level of preparation? Because God's got us here for a calling. Why aren't we living that out? Because I have a client who works with Bubba Watson. Bubba Watson's his client. And just a couple weeks ago, he was doing really well, and then all of a sudden just fell off on the last day. I don't know if you guys saw that. What people don't know, though, is he's got a bad meniscus. He's actually about to have surgery. So the thing was causing him so much pain, he couldn't swing properly. But on social media, people are blasting him. Think about, oh, he's lost it. What's wrong with him? Think about what that does to you mentally. It's like, man, they don't even know that he's suffering with that, and he's really in pain every single time he takes a step. So that's what they're having to deal with over and over. But we, as people just watching the game, we don't know that. We don't know what they're dealing with. And that's a problem with social media in general. We see people's highlight reels, but then we try to compare our behind the scenes to their highlight reel. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. We got to stop the comparison game and just go back to focusing on what are you called to do? How can you be the best person you can be to serve at the highest level you can serve?
Yeah. Wow. It's like Wayne Gretzky. Everybody knew that he was a phenomenal hockey player, but nobody knew he shot like 1,000 pucks a day or something.
Right, yeah. They don't see all that. Yeah.
Or Larry Bird shot 1,000 free throws a day.
Yep.
You don't see those types of things in the background.
Yeah,
on the highlight reel.
Kobe Bryant working out 4 a.m., first one there, last one to leave. It's like, yeah, they're putting in that work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So chiropractor school, near-death experience, a little bit of a mindset shift in what you felt like you were called to do. You start a Facebook group, you get a nice little following. You have some success. At what point does a TEDx talk become a goal for you? I mean, because you're starting to go like next level kind of stuff. So I'd love to peek behind the curtains on kind of your own mindset as far as when that felt like it was a possibility or a goal.
Yeah. So, for everybody listening, I just recently did a TEDx talk. And if you don't know what that is, if you've ever heard of Brene Brown, well, you've heard of her because of TEDx. That's what made her go viral. She was a professor, I think, at the University of Houston, and she was just doing a favor to a friend. Like, hey, we're having this event. Will you come speak at it? It happened to be TEDx, and her talk went viral. Her, and then the other big one that I grew up watching was Simon Sinek's Start With Why. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't heard that, go watch his Start With Why TEDx, as well as his book, Start With Why, because it's huge. But even back then, like, I was like, man, one day that would be awesome to speak on a stage like that. But for me, it's more of a testimonial now, not that I did TEDx, but the fact that I was able to do that. But I grew up with a severe fear of public speaking. I remember taking a speech class in college. I almost failed because I had a panic attack during the speech. Like, I remember just shaking, my hands were shaking, my voice was shaking. Like, I barely even made it through. And I made the story in my head, like, nope, you can't public speak. You should never speak again. This is not for you. You're terrible. Don't ever do that. And I actually bought into that story for years. I was like, nope, I'm not going to speak. We had a group project. Nope, I'm not going to be in front of the class and talk about this. Somebody else is going to do this. But for me, it was getting back to the calling. Like, I knew that I had a calling on my life to help people and make a bigger impact. And if I really wanted to step into that calling, I had to overcome my fear. And that's part of my message from my near-death experience was I had gotten comfortable. I had settled. And if I wanted to truly step in my calling, I needed to exchange my comfort for my calling. And if that's what it was for speaking for me, I was like, yes, I could stay here and just be afraid to speak the rest of my life, or I could conquer this fear and help millions of people. So for me, now speaking at TEDx was a testament to, man, somebody who had a fear of public speaking can now speak on one of the world's largest stages. So that's, for me, it was on my bucket list. It was like, one day I'll do this. But then I was sitting there last year, and I was like, why do I have to wait till one day? What if I took the action now that could actually allow me to get on the stage? And I did.
That's phenomenal, man.
That's fascinating. So behind that, like, I want to know your preparation behind the scenes. So how do you get on there, A? And B, once they say, hey, you got the gig, what does that look like? Your road, your journey
Yep.
to that stage.
Yeah. So then here's the aligned action. So I was like, okay, I want to do TEDx. So you start looking, okay, well, what do you do? Well, I have a friend that's done a couple of them. So I reached out to him, asked him, what are the steps for TEDx? Well, one, you have to have an idea worth spreading. That's what TED's all about. So I told him he knew about my near-death accident and my comfort to calling message. He was like, that's a great idea. So you got to shoot an application video, and then you start applying. And he said, it'll take you, if they like your idea, if you get accepted, it'll take about a year to 18 months to actually get accepted. So I was like, all right, those are the steps. I'm going to take aligned action. And this is where, because I'm a believer, God stepped in. I shot my application video. The next day, I'm down in Nashville, having dinner with a friend. Like an hour into dinner, he just randomly mentions, yeah, I just met a guy that came in earlier this week, and he's from Delaware. He organizes TEDx events.
No
And I was like, what? I didn't even tell my friend I'd even shot an application video for TEDx, but I was like, dude, I just shot my video yesterday. I was about to start applying. And he was like, man, well, I'll connect you. If he likes your idea, you guys can take it from there. So instead of taking a year to 18 months, I got on a call with that guy the next week, and he accepted me on the spot.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was definitely a God thing for sure.
How do you mentally prepare for giving a talk like that? Because TED obviously is a big deal. So how do you mentally prepare for that, and what does that preparation looks like?
Yeah, really, that goes back to the heart of service, just knowing the impact that you can make, and really, and especially being there, being on the stage, being in that environment. I didn't want to get caught up in the bigness of what the event was. I was just focusing on enjoying the moment and just realizing, going back to the story I just shared of, man, you overcame your fear of public speaking, and now you're able to be here speaking to potentially millions of people around the world. So for me, it wasn't allowing myself to get caught up in that, though. It's like, I'm just going to go out and deliver the message that God's put on my heart, and whoever that speaks to, I'm happy with that.
So similar to coming on this podcast then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's about the same reach.
Yeah, it's about the same.
Sleepless nights, super nervous.
Yeah, I didn't have an old fashioned on the stage though.
Yeah. For our millions of viewers, that's why I give them the drink to relax you a little bit.
Eat your pipe and smoke at TEDx. We got cocktails.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. I mean, I was thinking too, because I watched it a couple times, and how many times you rehearsed that? Because I can't remember the intro to this podcast, let alone 10, 15-minute TED Talk. I mean, is that something that's all, every word is scripted and you know it, or what does that look like?
Yeah, and it's funny because I never make PowerPoints, and I put the effort in to actually make a PowerPoint, and none of it actually made it on the video, so they didn't even show it at all. So,
oh, really?
So there was that, and then right before, so we had to submit our PowerPoint. We had to go ahead and submit our talk beforehand so they could approve it. So then I got there, and so I shared a framework of how to go from step out of your comfort zone into your calling. And you go through these different levels, and each slide, they had a different transition, and something else would pop up. Well, the transitions didn't carry over on the PowerPoint. Like, just everything was on one slide. So that threw me off too. So I was like, well, I thought the next point was coming
During
up.
your TEDx?
Yeah, during TEDx. When I
Oh,
thought the next
man.
point was coming up, boom, everything was just there. So I was like, well, I'm just going to roll with this too. So
Adapt and
not going to let
overcome.
it stop me.
So it wasn't memorized. I thought for sure that you had that whole thing, like you're standing for months in front of a mirror, in front of your wife, just going through this thing, but that's not the case.
Well, it was memorized, but it was memorized too in a place where I'm going to say this point, and you're not going to be able to read my next few points because I can just tell my story, I can do my thing. But the way it popped up, everything was just there. So I was like, well, they know what's coming next. I'm just going to.
It totally flips it on its head.
Hey, but it worked out.
Just
I've
go
had
through
great
it.
feedback from it.
So is there an audience at TEDx? I mean, I know it's
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
recorded.
They had at an event there. It was in Wilmington, Delaware, and it was in a theater. Yeah, had an audience there.
Wow, that is phenomenal.
So you're obviously venturing more and more into the public speaking forum, the motivational side of your business, but there's also the coaching side of your business. Maybe it could change over time, but which are you focused on one more than other? Is one growing faster than the other?
Yeah, I love both. I really like the speaking side of it because then I can affect more people at once versus my time is limited. So the people that I can coach, I can only handle so many. So by being able to speak, I can go out and just do events. And I love just being on stage and be able to look out and just see the light bulbs come on for people. Like, I love that. The heads start nodding. They start to be like, they start to think differently. So I love that about the speaking side of things. So yeah, that's really the focus right now. I love the coaching. I love my clients and I continue to get those, but really the speaking is really the focus.
So you've been doing this for about 4 years now. And what is your favorite part of what you do every day? I know you love helping people, and I know you love service, but is there anything in particular that just comes to you like, yes, I love this?
Really, it's in the same as with speaking, just those aha moments. And yeah, I think, and I deal with a lot of, since everybody struggles with belief and self-doubt, I think when people reach certain milestones and they actually start believing in themselves again, and that's really fulfilling to me. Like I had a group coaching call earlier, and there was multiple people on there that have had best months in their business. And it was really me reflecting back to them that they created this. They became a different person. That's why they're getting better results. It wasn't me and I coached them and I made them better. It's like, no, the things that they did. And then once they do that, once we have an experience, we can repeat that. So yes, you mentioned those sales cycles up and down. Well, you know what it feels like to have that good month. You can reproduce that again. So that's what I love for them, of them start to hit these milestones, but then have the belief that, you know what, I can do this and I can continue to repeat this success.
Wow. What does a business like that look like whenever you start to say, okay, I mean, because you've spoken even internationally now at this point, right? Yeah. So how do you, social media in other ways, but how do you promote your speaking business? Like how do you get the phone to ring to say, hey, come to my event?
Yeah, mainly right now it's been referrals. So one of the biggest ways in speaking is somebody hears you speak, and either they host an event or they know somebody who does, and like, hey, you need to have this guy speak. So that's been the main thing, is just other people reaching out like, hey, I know you speak at events. We're having this event. Would you like to speak at it?
That's super cool. So we've talked a lot about business, but what do you do outside of business? What are your hobbies?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I just spoke the week before TEDx. I was speaking at a retreat out in Idaho, and somebody was like, man, do you ever travel that's not for work? And I got to thinking about it. I was like, but it's not work to me. Like I got to go to the mountains up like an hour and a half north of Boise, Idaho, and like spend a week out there and pour into people. I was like, that's fun for me. So, but other than that, it's like my wife and I, we like to travel. So we love going to the beach. She's from South Carolina. She loves Charleston. We love going there and visiting for sure. But yeah, I think other than I love what I do every day. So it's kind of that cliche thing of, oh, you'll never work a day in your life if you love it. It's kind of what I'm living right now.
Yeah.
And I love it.
So what's the future? What's going to happen with Dr. Moseley?
Yeah, just doing more of this. I'm getting ready to start a YouTube channel. Again, no agenda to it, but I just want to put out stuff that helps people. So
what would that look like?
More just mindset stuff, just the tips, the belief stuff, overcoming self-doubt, gaining unstoppable self-confidence, all those things that can just help people. Because I know there's people at different levels. There are people that aren't ready to invest in a coach. Maybe they need the YouTube videos. Maybe they need the podcast, those things that can inspire them. So that's what that's going to be for.
Have you had a coach yourself?
Oh, yeah. I've had lots of coaches over the years, for sure.
How has that helped you, or what are some really good points you've gotten from coaches?
Yeah, I think everybody needs a good coach in life. Because I think a good coach can bring out the best in you. And you need somebody who can see you for what you're capable of. Because we have such a limited belief in ourselves. And you guys, you think about the people around you that you look up to. And maybe it's some guru out there. Maybe it's somebody who's the best of the best in what you guys do. But if you looked at them, you're like, man, if they were in my situation, they'd be crushing it right now. Why am I stuck? Why can't I hit levels that they're hitting? Well, it's you believe in them so much. What if you believed in yourself as much as you believe in them? And a good thing to, especially for people with kids, man, if you have kids, your kids think you can do anything. It's like you got them fooled right now. But they think you can do anything. What if you believed in yourself as much as they believe in you? Or the people around you, your parents, the people around you at work that think you are awesome. What if you believed in yourself as much as they believe in you? So I think that's what a good coach can do, is help you gain the own self-confidence and belief in yourself that makes you take better action that will get you better results.
That's one for the highlight reel. Did you get that,
That's
Brian?
Awesome. You got to get that. You got that, Brian? All right.
He's got that. So you mentioned
okay.
Tony Robbins a couple times. Yep. So who do you look up to?
Yeah, he's one of the biggest influences. Him, Jack Canfield was another one. So yeah, I used to listen at his CDs back in the day, and when you had the portable CD that had non-skip that you would carry around. And
The Discman.
the Discman,
Oh, yeah. You were
yeah.
a big deal if you had like 15-second anti-skip.
Yeah, that was top of the line right there. So yeah, I used to
Put that in your bicycle and
and just go. Yeah, I used to listen to their audios over and over. I remember back in the day, I couldn't afford Tony Robbins, like Get the Edge, and so I went to the library and like got the whole. I think it was like 20 cassettes. Went home, dubbed the cassettes, which a lot of people don't even know what that means at this point, but made copies of those so I could listen to it just over and over. And then eventually I bought Personal Power 2 off of eBay, which is like a 25 disc set. I still have it to this day, but I was just constantly listening to it over and over, because the more you start listening to it, the more it starts to become part of you, and then it will come out of you.
So are you a note taker when you listen to these, or no? Not
No,
really.
like I am anti-notes.
Okay.
Like I went through from undergrad even to grad school, barely took any notes. I'm more of an audio visual person, so I like to see it, listen to it, and learn it that way. So I don't like to take notes. I've gone through phases where like, yeah, I'm gonna start taking notes and all this stuff, but no, I'm just not wired that way. More audio visual.
See, I'm a note taker, but then I never look at the notes, so I don't know why I take them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, studies
still
show
good
if you write it down, you do ingrain it in your memory more. So even if you don't go back and listen to it or look at it again, but yeah, everybody's wired a little different.
Yeah.
Well, man, I feel like I'm just going to be sitting in an event one day, real estate or otherwise, and they're just going to announce the next speaker. It's going to be the mindset doctor. Be like, I know that guy.
Well, speaking of that, I've had a couple people say, you need to come speak at our realtors conference. So maybe you can make that
Hey,
connection.
man, let me know let me know when and where, buddy. I'll
yeah.
be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
that's fantastic.
Well, who's taking us out with round of speed questions?
I've got some speed questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So, outside of coaching people, what's your happy place?
Being on either the beach or the mountains, either one. I love both.
Where in the mountains?
Any of them.
Cherokee.
Any mountains is just beautiful. Like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I just love, it's just like taking in the beauty that God has created.
So, if you weren't doing this and you weren't being a chiropractor, what else would you be doing?
I would still be doing this, the content part of it. I would still be putting stuff out.
Yep.
If I wasn't doing the coaching, I would just still be putting stuff out that could help people.
Favorite book or podcast?
Think and Grow Rich. I think that's one of the best that anybody should read. And even kids should start reading it these days, and just it starts to shift the mindset.
It's one of those ones a lot of people say, just read it every year, listen to it
Yep.
every year, whatever. Like,
Yeah, I went
just-
through it a
never
while.
gets old.
Every year I would reread it, and yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah. What would your superpower be?
Yeah, I think making connections, because I think relationships are rocket ships. They can really just make things take off for you. And I've always been intentional about making relationships with no agenda, not trying to, hey, how can I connect to this person to get something out of it? But really trying to make true, authentic relationships, because you never know where they can take you.
Man, that's great. That's awesome. Anything else, guys?
No, that's a lot to soak in.
Thanks for being on,
That's-
man.
Yes, thanks for having
Absolutely
us.
loved it.
One of the best we've done so far. I mean, the content and everything that was in that is awesome, man. I really appreciate you being here today, and appreciate you bringing in our drink here.
Yes, yeah, appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you guys out there. Thank you for watching What You Sipping On. Please subscribe. Thank you, as always, to Brian Holloway, Black Fox Media, for producing. Appreciate B3 and everything that you guys do. Before we go out, please tell everybody where they can find you on social. We'll link everything. But
Yeah,
just
definitely connect with me on Instagram, Dr. Justin Moseley, and please go support my TEDx talk. If you could watch it, like, comment, really helps it just spread to more people.
awesome.
So.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Here's to you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.